Good evening and welcome to live coverage of the opening round of Season 8 of the RWB International Constructors Championship. I'm Rob Lomas, as per usual, as is very much usual for the Constructors Championship. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined tonight by, well, it's not just me. I've got Debug joining me in the commentary box.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. You?
Yes, good.
And if I do this, then we should be able to hear Damien, who is also joining us in the comms box for tonight. And I was going to say evening, but I've just remembered it's quite early in the morning for you. It's already Wednesday, I think.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. So just coming up to the last moments of qualifying. If I go full screen, I might actually be able to see who's where and tell you who is currently fastest and so on and so forth. Has just got the usual 3-minute countdown clock to go. Been a lot of driver and team changes and yet another new race format as well, which I'm going to quickly get up on my other screen. Oh, it's just like being on the old endurance back again. Yes, so it's half an hour practice, 12-minute qualifying, and then 2 races. 20-minute first race and 40-minute second race, with a pit window in both races where drivers have to refuel their cars. Although I say refuel, they've got to put 1 litre in at least, that counts. And to top it off, there will be success ballast applied after the first race of each round. So, Mr. Vilk and Mr. Red Sky are going to be having quite a busy evening, methinks.
Yeah, I mean, there's something else as well to the league this season that I quite really like, and that is they're limited to 2 tyre sets per race as well, or per session. So the tyres that they will be doing their qualifying on today will be the tyres that they have to do both the races on as well, or at least the tactics could be that they use a fresh set of tyres for 1 qualifying session, and then they maybe use the other set of tyres for the 20-minute and 40-minute race. But it's certainly something that can catch some drivers out if they don't follow the rules or look into what they've done this time.
Yeah, and also, well, I guess you could also do qualifying plus the first race, because that's only 20 minutes on 1 set of tyres, and then bolt a fresh set of tyres on for the longer of the 2 races. Who knows? There's a lot of strategy at play here. We're currently looking at Mikko Sky and the Bentley down in 45th on the grid. Oh, crikey. I probably shouldn't attempt to do a grid rundown because we could be here a while.
We have like 46 people on the grid, so yeah.
Yeah. It's still not as bad as the big grid enduro at Spa at the beginning of the season, where thanks to Red Sky and Racer, we were able to do the entire grid in about 3 minutes, although it wasn't exactly the most audibly pleasing bit of audio.
This sounds like you're just gonna like tongue twister through all the names.
It literally was. It was like the quick part of Rap God by Eminem, but for about 3 minutes. So, yeah, not ideal, but we got through the grid, so I'll take that.
Amazing.
So much talent in this field as well. You've obviously got the likes of Radek and Eddie and Crawford. We've got Max Haynes in a Mercedes, I believe. Oh, sorry, McLaren, excuse me. We've got Cameron Hawes as well, another driver to very much keep an eye out for. He's in a Mercedes, and if we do get him on camera, at some stage. I will explain why, shall we say, later on. But yeah, Max and Cameron, I believe, are the only two holders of a full race license actually in the field.
And when you say that, an actual race license,
yeah, an actual,
that's pretty cool.
Where they do actual full metal or full carbon fibre in in Cameron's case, racing. Yeah. Actually, no. I'll tell the story now, since we've got a bit of time to kill before the start of the race. So earlier this year was the first race for the ERA Electric Racing Academy Championship. It was at Zolder, and the cars they use are basically, it's a dome Formula 4 chassis, but with an electric powertrain fitted to it, and Cameron won the first ever race.
Oh, okay.
He was also racing actually up in a Mark II Golf GTI up at Val de Vienne in France this weekend, and won both races in his series as well. So, yeah, very quick driver. And as expected, as I was saying, usual names at the front: Radek Schuller, Marco Badowski, Jack Alexander, Crawford Brown, Nathaniel Shirley, McDonald, Erdmann, Kozłowski, Plate, Shipton, rounding out the top 10. Then we got Haynes, Varga, Barlow, Chafer, Warden, Wood, Barnett, Birch, Kostadinov, rounding out the top 20. Right, that's the top 20 on the grid done. Gonna wait now for the lights to go green, which they should hopefully soon. It's quite a long run here at Paul Ricard, and there's obviously quite a lot of cars, but the lights go green now, inevitably after the first few drivers have already passed them, and
already got 3 wide.
Yeah, 3 wide in places. We'll wait and see how they file through the first couple of corners. Bit of a pinch point
contact and
yeah, as is sadly inevitable, because it is very much a pinch point actually in the in GT World Challenge Europe in real life. Heading hard on the brakes now for turn 4, 5, back down into first gear for 6. The little cone thing on the inside has already been obliterated, quite frankly. More contact going on in the background. Didn't quite catch who that was, unfortunately. There's now with Nigel Wood battling away 19th, 20th place at the moment, battling with, trying to actually make out which one's which from the who's who from the helicam. Trust me, this gets a lot easier as the season goes on, and you actually can pick out who's driving what car easier. But for the first race of the championship, it's always a bit like throwing 3 darts at a dartboard after about 6 points B. You don't know what you're going to be hitting.
I mean, that was a pretty good start from Jack Alexander, though, wasn't it? I mean, he especially in that Nissan, that surprised me. He had no issues whatsoever clearing the first 2, Schuller and Badowski. So, yeah, that's going to be see how much pace that thing's got down the straights now.
I was actually doing a little bit of testing in the Nissan before we were on air earlier this evening, and Jack mentioned about how, you should try turning the traction control up a bit on the front engined cars. So I thought, okay, I normally drive traction control 2 or 3 depending what car it is. I'll turn it up to 6 or 7 this time. And within about 2 laps of merely trying to relearn Paul Ricard to know kind of which way the circuit went, I'd got within 6/10 of my best ever lap. I mean, granted, the lap I did was a 59.4, so it was pretty terrible, but still. and that was in a car that did not want to go around scene for love nor money either.
It's interesting. It's interesting when you start hearing the likes of Jack and other fast drivers start telling you that kind of information, because I was always of the impression as a sim racer that the lower the traction and just kind of like getting your throttle control and that is the way to go. But clearly there's something new with ACC and updates.
Yeah, it's a lot of pretty much all the top pros in real life, like Bortolotti and Chris Meese, van der Linde, as Eugenie there gets a bit of a whack from Gianni Lenzi in the Audi.
And there's more contact
involving, quite a few drivers there. Eugenians, oh no, just to make matters worse, he's been waxed by Hottie. Yep. Thankfully, the pit window is open, so he's only got about... Well, I wanted to say half a lap to go. He's clearly got a bit more than half a lap to go to get the car back into the pits for repairs.
That's a painful one when that happens just down the main back straight.
Yeah.
It's
especially in the first race where it's only 20 minutes long.
And the interesting thing about this, I don't know what your thoughts are, Rob, but Paul Ricard, it seems to be a very unique track where a lot of the drivers have different lines and different ways they take certain corners.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if you're not that aware, or you're not, it's not that you're not that aware, but sometimes that can really catch the drivers out. They won't expect certain braking, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Paul Ricard is an absolute pain in the arse, quite honestly, drive, because you have no visual reference points, because everything looks exactly the same. So it's so hard to try and actually, especially at the end of the lap as well, trying to actually find your marker. The way you go from you think you're braking for an apex and you realise, oh no, the apex is a bit later, back on the throttle, hit the brake again, and next thing you know, oh, so I'm off the track and I'm in the runoff area and I've completely ruined my lap.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just worth mentioning. Erdmann, yesterday in their practice sessions, Erdmann was very, very quick in that Aston Martin, following the two Lexuses at the moment, and he did set the fastest lap last lap. He's doing a 1:55.362 on race pace, and I'm guessing they're probably new tyres or maybe scrub tyres after quali, but he's definitely one to watch, because I was really impressed at his pace yesterday. He was basically leaving cars behind as if they were just parked up at Tesco, waiting to get their shopping for the weekend. But yeah, it's definitely, he's even going for it now, as you can see.
Yeah, clearly making use of all his club card points then. Totally not saying that because they may or may not be one of my employers, employees, I can't remember, but either way, yeah, that's why I've always had Tuesday nights off, so I can do this. Badowski has dropped down the field quite a bit, but that's because he's made quite an early pit stop, as have a couple of other drivers. So if you notice next to where the race number is, you can see there's a little 1 there. That indicates that the driver is yet to pit, so that should be happening fairly soon. And once the driver's pitted, that instead of having a little 1, it'll just be a little green box there instead. So you see Kostadinov in the BMW, for example, in 23rd, he's pulled into the pits, and he's now completely disappeared from the timing totem because he's in the pits and has been passed by quite a few drivers. This is one way of putting it.
And of course, this is also one to mention as well. The drivers have to be extremely cautious and careful entering those pits, because the minute they make that turn into the pits, they're reducing down to 31, and there is likely that we're going to see some penalties tonight, speeding in the pit lane, also track limits as well. Those who didn't do the practice sessions on Monday, very possible we're going to see some track limits and drive-through penalties given as well. So I'd imagine the guys, are they going to be extra careful? I mean, Damien, you've raced this league. It's going to happen, isn't it? We're going to see some. We're going to see some penalties.
Happen, yeah.
The best one I remember for track limits was a few seasons back at Misano.
And it's Martin Schaefer.
There you go.
Speaking of,
speaking of penalties, yeah, thanks Schaefer for just proving our point right there, you bastard. Currently with Radek Schuller, who at this rate might be the first time in. I honestly can't remember the last time Radek didn't win a Constructors' Championship race. In fact, I think I'm fairly certain he holds the record for most consecutive wins.
Yeah.
See also pretty much the entirety of last season, where I think he won just about every race.
He's quick as well. He's definitely putting the pressure onto Mr. Alexander.
Yeah,
Like-
Radek in his usual Acura NSX, a car which is actually pretty quick on the straights, as we saw at Monza in the 8 hours with the Reiter esports guys, and as they went on to win. Of course, no one here brave enough to opt for the Huracan Super Trofeo just to go down the just for the Mulsanne straight. Unlike that race as well. It was brilliant to hear from Phil and Mark, the two drivers of that car during the race, and the amount of insight they were giving us as to, yes, we're quick on the straight line, but people do seem to forget that we do have to brake quite early in this thing. It doesn't quite have the brakes of a GT3 car. How Phil did his final stint in that car with no force feedback, I do not know. Because I've tried driving without force feedback, and it's nigh on impossible. Speaking of Radek Schiller, McDonald's going up the inside at Beausset and heading into this corner here. There's a little cut through on the inside. That's actually to actually kind of straighten this part out for the Bowl Door, the big 24-hour motorcycle race here at Ricard. Not quite the party it used to be, and believe you me, it was like, Radek has been spun around by the other Lexus. That's Shirley, and Shirley might be getting a penalty of some kind for that. Thankfully for Radek, it's actually right next to the pit entrance, so he could just make his pit stop. But
I almost thought you were going to do a horrible surely Shirley should be getting.
No. Damian's just been drilled up the arse by a McLaren. Excuse me. That was the 13 McLaren of, I think that might have been Mason. God dear, Mason and Schaefer.
Was Mason going in the pits as well for that?
I think so. I think so.
Damien and Mason are going right into each other in the pits.
I wonder if Mason actually hadn't expected Vilk to have hit the brakes that early to make the pit entrance, and then promptly rammed him up the backside. But
and this is my point exactly. You know, all these drivers, they all brake at different points. There's got to be that respect. So yeah,
I mean, you could just do the Catalonia special and just not brake.
That's the reason he's called Mister.
Has a drive-through penalty.
Yes, another one getting done for track limits. I mean, could be worse. We could be racing at Spa, in which case, if you get a drive-through penalty, then good luck, you're fucked. To put it mildly, given the pit lane at Spa is actually a mile long. I have actually measured it from the start of the entrance up at the bus stop chicane to the top of Radion is a mile. Red Sky just having to pull out a little bit there, battling away with Magnus Dahlgren for 12th place. He's got BMW. That's actually the one of the other comms admins in the BMW, the Chief. So I can just about read it on my screen, but yep, that is the
Looks
Chief.
like we got Nat Shirley pitting as well now, so it'll be interesting to see if Schaefer can make up some time or make up some position. Was it Schaefer? No, it wasn't Schaefer.
It was Radek.
Radek Schuller, yes, of course, yeah, in the Honda. See if he can make up that time now and get back onto Shirley.
Well, they say that a racing driver tends to drive their quickest laps when they're mildly pissed off at something, and it is true as well. I've heard it. I've heard Matt Neal. I've heard Alex Wirtz as well describing it as Giorgio Minga gets a stop and go 30 for speeding in the pits. But yeah, I think they say that a racing driver tends to do their best laps when they're slightly pissed off, and I'd imagine Radek is probably more than just slightly pissed off about being hit from behind and spun round. So could be quite interesting, to put it mildly.
Just checking, I don't know. Did we see what happened to Erdmann there? Because he's now down into 38th position.
He's not. He's showing on the stream as being further down than 38th. He's showing as being actually stone last.
Right. Okay.
So I can only imagine he's had some kind of technical issue, unfortunately.
That is a shame.
Yeah, real shame because he was properly quick earlier on.
Shout out to Charger and the others watching on the YouTube channel. Hello. Any questions or that, just feel free to shout away.
Yes, and we'll try our best to sort of answer them. Depending on if I have to actually look it up on Google first, which is never usually a good sign, but...
Looks like Jack's in the pits.
Yeah, Jack making his mandatory pit stop. There's still a few minutes to go, and I remember the last time we had mandatory pit stops, some of the drivers would leave it quite late. That
was a hell of a squeeze, wasn't it? You could see him drifting further and further to the right-hand side, as if to say, "I know you're coming, but I'm not."
Yeah, Cam, unfortunately, with a drive-through penalty. I'm trying to think if he's actually raced here in real life, because I know he does a lot of his racing out in France, Cam. So I don't know if he's raced here in real life yet. So that might be one to check. And Charger is saying that he has a question.
Oh, no. I'm not answering that.
How long will my steak take to be medium rare? Ooh.
I'm not answering it because I want to keep the stream professional, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, I just want to make all of us talk about steaks.
So pit windows close in a couple of minutes' time. There's 4:41 left of the race. McDonald, Plate, a few others haven't pitted yet. It looks. I don't want to say this because but it looks like Alexander's gonna take this one. If it wasn't for the contact Schuller had at the start, I think, I think it might be a good one, but I don't know. I think it would take. It would take a mistake now with his pace.
Well, actually, it might be Badowski, in fact. He's got the fastest lap of the race in the McLaren, and he was also the first driver to pit. I'm wondering if Chafer hasn't realised that he does still need to pit. Because he has come through the pits, but that was to serve a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, actually.
He might not have actually... Oh, no, he has realised. God for that. Yeah. So, watching... Oh, no, now it's showing... Right, it might take a few secs for this to update, because the timing poll is showing Emo as being in... Plate as being in second, but he's actually down in 7th at the moment. We're on board with Dan Williamson, battling with... I think that was Damien Wilk. Yeah, I can see Barnett's Nissan up ahead, and Williamson goes past to take 23rd, which anything in the top 20 really at this stage of the season is actually going to be very good going, given how many cars are on track. And yeah, it's a good job we're starting at one of the longer circuits in the game, Paul Ricard, because I'll tell you what, if we'd have been starting at somewhere like Laguna Seca, oh boy, that could have been a bit...
Isn't it great though, to see...
for the Audi and the Porsche?
How great is it to see a full grid though?
Yeah.
Everyone here. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And to just looking at the track as well, fighting away, it's fantastic.
Been a cracking start to the season so far. See Dan Birch there battling away with out of lane. Scrimpy, as we just call him on GT Hub. And then with Hugo Gomez just behind in the Porsche. It's another one of the GT Hub entries. Yes, sadly there are, well, I say sadly, there are quite a few, and 2 more GT Hub folks in the commentary box as well.
Just a handful.
Yeah, there's just a few of us involved. Both on and off track. We're coming up with about 90 seconds to go, so yeah, it's only a lap or so left. Shirley's up to 7th now. Shirley is, I think, ahead of him. Yeah, Shirley's up in 3rd for now. I say for now, partially because there's a chance he might get a penalty, and partially because he's got a very brightly coloured Nissan right on his gearbox, in the form of Jack Alexander.
He's going to lose that podium.
Well, it depends. The Nissan is traditionally quite quick on the straight, so
They're both swerving through the back straight.
yeah, trying.
There's a little bit of Ricardo swerving there.
Yeah, trying to break the draft. Shirley. Oh, he's got the run. He's got to go around the outside. Oh, he's not quite able to hang on around the outside. The big Nissan does not like turning into scene from experience. He's having another look around the Shirley, making him again have to go the long way round. And this is bringing McDonald into the equation in the Lexus. I thought it was for a moment, but there are so many lines around both. Say Alexander again having to go around the outside of Shirley.
Oh, he's getting
the
side by side now.
Inside. He's got to go round the outside here, but he's ahead still. Shirley comes back on the inside. The final corner is a right-hander though, and Jack Alexander is able to just about get the job done after about half a lap, I think.
That now brings the other Lexus into contention, and Shirley's potentially going to lose another one.
Yep. Although on the plus side for Shirley, it means he won't have to worry about any potential success ballast for the next race.
That was some cracking driving there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he could have closed the door on Alexander, but they raced really fair there. That was cracking.
That was quite something. For about half a lap, it's still an absolute train of cars coming down the pitch straight here at Paul Ricard. There's Mason. I thought he was gonna, and that mistake there from Mason has brought Vilk into the equation, and Vilk is going to get past comfortably before turn 3, and that in turn might bring Ian Mackey into thing. Mason is fighting back, to be fair, although this might actually bring Ian Mackey into the equation in the Bentley. Vilk having a look up the inside. He's got the inside again for this corner. Mason a little bit wider there. He's a bit offline as well now, and that Bentley I think does have very good straight line speed for good measure. Yeah, that was a bit iffy there. It was like what you were saying earlier, D-Bug. I don't think Jack actually saw Ian coming on his outside. That's let Kozłowski, I think, go past in the Mercedes, and Kozłowski getting the draft off Damien Vilk there to get past Mason as well. Mason,
But they kept it.
It was one of those final half-ass moves that just. Yeah. I think it's that last lap desperation, isn't it? You know, and that corner. Oof.
Yeah, scene is one of those corners where you ideally want to be passed before the corner. Yeah. Otherwise, you need a very willing person alongside you. Meanwhile, the race has finished. It's Mark Ibdowski, Crawford Brown, Jack Alexander, Nathaniel Shirley, George McDonald, Emmo Plate, Radek Schuller, Eddie Warden, one of the Mercedes drivers whose name I can't actually make out. Lessentin, cheers. Max Haynes, Sherblum. Oh no, Shipston, excuse me. Varga, Crockett, Atkinson, Vlay and Birch, Gomez, Barnett, Wood, Williamson, Vilk, Mackey being the big winner there in that incident on the final lap at Scene, although he very much had to thread the needle, close his eyes and kind of hope for the best, in all honesty, because he was car on one side, car on the other, and he was basically split them through the middle. Kozłowski was 23rd. There's Josh Barton coming across the line in 32nd. Behind Kozłowski, it was Dahlgren, Merchant, Red Sky, Mason, Pereira, Chafer, Kostadinov, Mad Owl doing a cracking job there in the Nissan in 31st place. Barton, Hottie, Lenz, Kevin Shepherd there in 35th. And then Al Gartner, Blake, Sherbel and Begg, Eugenie, Miko Sky, Alexi Gerlander, Giorgio Minga, and Erdmann, who unfortunately is showing as being 4 laps down. He must have had some kind of issue or something there in the Aston Martin. But
yeah, it would be interesting to see what happened to Mr. Erdmann.
Very, very much so, because he was right at the sharp end of the field. And as he said, he was phenomenally quick in practice yesterday. So I'm going to have a quick look and see. No one's said anything on the server just yet, although that is understandable given that everyone's slightly busy racing. It's not like the endurance races where we usually have teams chatting about stuff and we actually get seemingly half the information from the Discord server and half of it from the YouTube chat, which is why ideally I need to set up more screens in my bedroom. But
that's the beauty of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's our job to stir crap up, you know. I'm sure Badowski was doing something dodgy.
Well, I mean, he supports one of the football teams I do, and Borussia Mönchengladbach, and given the other team I support is Tottenham, I think it's pretty clear that I mainly look for mediocrity when it comes to football teams, because Gladbach haven't really won that much lately, although I think they've still won stuff more recently than Tottenham have. How many days has it been since we last won a major trophy? I think it's... We have a WhatsApp group at work, which is just dedicated to taking the mick out of the football. Yeah, 5,316 days since we last won a major trophy, being the 2008 League Cup final. Not that I'm ever reminded of that by some of my friends. Yeah, never.
Look,
although at least I can say, have you won the Audi Cup? No, you haven't. But yes, it's nice to know that our trophy cabinet is gathering as much dust as... No, I probably shouldn't go there. Yeah, the joys of the bits in between races, where we're just waiting on everyone to return to the pit. It says the race start.
And there we go.
Oh, it said that the second race should have started.
And this is the key. This is the key for me, and this will be what I find interesting, because I genuinely believe that now they've just done 20 minutes on a set of tyres. Now, do they decide to continue that 20 minutes or on that tyre set, or do they do a quali, or have some people done a quali stint and then done the 20-minute race and kept a brand new fresh set? This is going to be the interesting thing for me.
It is, and
the strategy would be like they would use one set for qualifying and the first race, and then the other set for the second race.
Yeah.
And also with ricard as well, you've got some corners like Beausset at the far end of the track, which are really quite quick but go on forever in a day, and the amount of load that goes through the tyres, especially on the left-hand side through the corner, is actually quite high. So yeah, it is going to be quite interesting to see if that's the case. And I'm just having to look through the rest of the calendar to see if there's any other tracks where we might be able to get something similar. I think Watkins Glen maybe a bit later on into October. That's round 6. The full calendar, by the way, it's at Paul Ricard tonight. Next round is at Spa next Tuesday. Then we've got round 3 in Barcelona, round 4 at Zandvoort, round 5 at Kota, round 6 at Watkins Glen, round 7 at Kyalami, and then at the beginning of November to round the season off, Bathurst, which the last time we had Bathurst as the final round of the season.
Was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah,
Constructors.
some people might not like to be reminded about that. The entire Porsche team, 2/3 of which got wiped out on the run between turn 1 and turn 2.
I was fortunate enough to get away from that pile-up.
Yes, you were one, well, more to the point, Damien, you were one of the few people who didn't get involved in the pile-up.
I think it's worth, I've just noticed it looks like we got some back markers now. Erdman, Jun, a few guys who have obviously left and rejoined, kind of confirming what we reiterated at the start, that there must have been some technical difficulties with their car and setups.
On the plus side, though, this means that, if I was in Erdman's position, I'd be thinking, you know what, fuck it, let's have a bit of fun.
Yes, and to be fair, at least he gets a front row seat at any problems that do come up in front of him.
Well, given the way the first lap tends to go around here, yep, he's going to be one to watch, shall we say. Heading up through the field as they all file their way down through the final corner. The reason why it still hasn't gone green yet is because we're actually waiting for the last few cars to actually get around the final corner, which they have now. Another
That's a slow start from Marco Bazowski.
Yeah, Crawford Brown up the inside. Jack Alexander
we're going 4 wide.
4 wide with the Lexuses as well. This is going to be absolute carnage. Somehow the top 1, 2, 3. No, and Crawford has hit one of the Lexuses in the Ferrari. I can tell it's Crawford's car because it is bright yellow. And indeed, we are now looking at Crawford Brown as he now goes into the absolute carnage that is mid.
And there's more contact coming in.
Paul Ricard, I mean, at this point, it's the opening lap of the race here at Paul Ricard. It might as well be easier to list who hasn't had contact with someone. we might be here all night at this rate, in all honesty. So, yeah, down to 14th place for Crawford Brown. Charger has just asked who gets ballast. So, this is the part where I have to go to the rules and regulations.
Yeah, come on, you should know this.
So, the success ballast will be applied after the first race of each round. So whoever finishes in first gets 30 kilograms, or the equivalent of just under half of me in the passenger seat. P2 gets 20 kilograms, or about nearly a third of me in the passenger seat, and P3 gets 10 kilograms, or me or my rucksack after I've been shopping for beer for New Year's Eve.
We have some contact with.
Yeah, that was
the BMW
of Barton.
Thanks.
So Jack Alexander should have a bit of ballast in this race. Same for Badowski. Badowski's going to have. I feel sorry for Badowski. He's going to have the equivalent of half of me lumped onto the McLaren. So it's like when they. I know they do this in Super GT as well in Japan, and I was watching a YouTube thing where Alex Garcia and Jens, aka Genu, were chatting to my friend Esteban for radio in Argentina, and I pointed out that the success ballast, that is like the equivalent of having me in the passenger seat of the car, because it was 60 kilo for first place, and I said, yeah, that's basically skinny university student next to you in the car, so not great, but yeah. Just to put it into perspective, there's Gomez in the Porsche. That's one of the McLaren's, that was Mason running wide. He's now drops behind Vilk for 23rd. Still with Gomez, battling with Vlaen. So I know they're driving for two different manufacturers, but the usual rule of motorsport still applies. Don't take out your teammate, or at least someone who's on the same Discord server as you are.
Or your friends.
Yeah, that as well. Come through, seen once again. You can run quite wide there, but as long as you're back before the little boards, then you're okay. Someone in the background clearly deciding against doing that.
The curbs on the exit of that corner, it can be really bumpy.
Oh, I mean, that corner in general, it's not really much of a corner in an F1 car, because you've obviously got the chicane on the Mistral straight, which is stupid and pointless in my opinion. But even without it, it still wouldn't be much of a corner in an F1 car. I think might have been a little bit of contact there in the background.
There's been a bit of contact, and
yeah,
more contact.
And a bit of flashy.
Oh, what's the golden rule?
No fucking flashing.
Yeah. That was Nigel Wood in the Ferrari, so that's going to be a slam dunk penalty for him.
He knows better. Charger, book him now. He knows better not to flash.
Yeah, come on, Charger. You're watching the stream, mate. Get on it, please.
and I must have gotten it totally wrong with Erdmann, because he didn't start at last. He's obviously started still up the pack, because he's challenging Shirley at the moment for third.
Yeah. Yes, the joys of ACC there.
Yeah, it's
in a
my
nutshell.
fault. I'm looking at pit wall and it's clearly wrong.
Pit wall, yes. Great for endurance races if you want to find out who's driving a car at a certain time. Less good when you're trying to find out who's where and what the gaps are. Because as good as it is a bit delayed. Again, a repeat of last time now, I think, between Shirley and Erdmann, sorry.
I think it's just test of patience there, really, isn't it? I mean, Erdmann needs to keep his head down and be patient and drive Shirley into a mistake at some point and drive him slightly wide. But
yeah. Meanwhile, there's Warden battling Varga. Varga again having to make him go around the outside in the big Bentley. Still not the biggest GT3 car in the game. Oh, crap, it was a Porsche going a bit wide there. It was
Hugo Gomez.
Yep, Gomez having a bit of a moment.
Bit of a snap.
Bit of snap oversteer. Of course, in the Porsche, you do have to kind of drive that thing a little bit more.
And
on the
there's not the Ferrari.
And I don't think he took out the Ferrari. I think it was actually the BMW of Crockett that took out the Ferrari. Wood's coming into the pits, clearly not because the pit window's open, but clearly as a form of self-sacrifice in a bid to appease the stewarding gods, given that he knows that he might well have a penalty on the cards. Oh, and there's contact between one of the Audis, and that was Johnny Lenz, I think, with... Who was that? Was that Porsche or a McLaren? Either way, it may have been GT Hub on GT Hub car contact. So, oh dear, that's going to be interesting later.
I saw a bright yellow car, and it looked like a Ferrari as well.
Okay, so that's neither of them. That's Pereira then.
Yeah. Because I saw
Top-class
Pereira
journalism.
just, drive in towards Lens.
Yeah.
As they go for the first corner.
Yeah, it's... I tell you what, just imagine if we'd been racing at Suzuka tonight.
Tell you what, just imagine the poor stewards on Monday that are going to be reviewing some of these videos. You've got your jobs cut out, I think, lads, for Monday.
Yeah. I think it might be. I was going to say it's a good job it's not done immediately post-race, because otherwise Al would be having a very, very late night tonight.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I'm not racing in this season. Which we shall not talk about.
I mean, I was tempted to. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, at this rate, there's going to be plenty of space in the steward's box for a driver still.
Barnett getting a bit out of shape there on the last corner.
Yep, the big Nissan. The Nissan being, the Nissan's not the easiest car to drive. Shall we say? It's although to be fair, actually turning the traction control up does make it quite a lot easier. It actually, in a way, suits my driving style a bit more, because my driving style traditionally has always been to basically smash the throttle as early as possible and kind of hope for the best, which, if you've got traction control on, great. If you don't have traction control on, it becomes very much a case of how quickly can I catch this slide, which, given that I'm having to rely on what I'm seeing and not what I'm feeling through the car, it's actually kind of difficult. So I remember Martin Brundle in his book Working the Wheel back in the day saying that when you're driving a racing car, you feel what the car's doing through your arse, because that's what's closest to the ground. So he said that in his book, that, you know, if you see the slide happening, 9 times out of 10 you're too late to correct it. And you've also, and I think Nick Manassian said the same thing to Top Gear magazine back when he was taking him for some passenger laps in the 908 LMP1 back in the day, which would have been a bit snug, I'd imagine. Probably one for the smallest journalist in the in the office, because
you try doing that in the Nürburgring, and you're definitely gonna spin out the car and crash into a place where there's no escape zone, because the Nürburgring is a bit tough to race on. Also, hello, yes, I joined because the race seemed fun, and I wanted to join in with all the commentators over here.
Hello, Gearhead. How you doing?
Doing okay. Just preparing myself for the F3 championship that's going to happen on Race Room.
Also, actually, one sec.
Gearhead, you sound beautiful and very echoey.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Okay. Probably on microphone. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix this.
No worries.
And breaking news. Just had a Dan Merchant has just posted on the server that his internet's given up for the evening. So unfortunately, that's him out of the race, most likely. I mean, it's only a 40-minute race, longer of the 2 races this evening, and normally in an endurance race, it's fun. You can sort of find a way around the unique experience that is trying to connect to an ACC lobby for an endurance race when you've got 3 drivers per car. But for a 40-minute sprint race, I mean, at that point, I'd be heading to the fridge and getting a nice cold adult beverage and cracking it open, because the chances of being able to come back are pretty much nigh on impossible, really.
This is shaping up to be a bit tasty.
Driving drunk, never a good idea.
Yeah, it's coming on board with Wouter Vlaen in the 666 Audi, which is my personal favourite race number because metal.
And the devil.
Says someone who's got an Iron Maiden flag behind his desk, from when I saw them up at the NEC a few years ago. But yeah, Wouter battling away with Barnett, just ahead of him in the Nissan. There's Dan Birch, I think, there as well in the Mercedes. I thought Vlaen was going to have it.
I thought he was going to go on the inside over there. I thought it was going to go on the inside over there.
It's not really an overtaking zone. I mean, like, half the time when they try actually overtaking there in real life, it just ends up with someone getting T-boned. I mean, we saw earlier. Yeah, and someone getting spun out. I mean, we saw earlier when Shirley made an attempt, shall we say,
which resulted in Radek Schiller pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like that meme where you got the Rainbow Comic Sans flashing across the screen going, an attempt was made.
Well, at the very least, Barnett was able to overtake the Mercedes AMG that was in front of him.
Yeah, I was looking at that. He did a lovely overtake on that afterwards. And again, the interesting thing here is I don't know if you guys saw it on the previous lap, but the Audi had the pace behind, but as soon as he moved out, he just seemed to start dropping back again. So, and here's where the Bentley straight line speed.
Attacking the Audi, going on the outside. Which corner is that? I know it's a very fast corner. Everyone's going really wide over there.
Not really. There's no such thing as track limits on the outsider scene. As long as you're on the inside for when those little sticky up bits are to rejoin the track, then they count it as okay. I mean, and that's the thing here with Paul Ricard. It's like one of the good things about having all this tarmac runoff area is great. If you make a mistake, you can sort of get away without fucking the car up too much. But at the same time, it also means getting done for track limit. Like, I feel sorry for whoever has to do for the stewarding team in real life when GT World Challenge Europe race here for the 1,000 kilometers / 6 hours, because professional GT drivers do like to push things quite a bit, and the amount of track limits stuff you get through around here in particular is quite eye-opening. And that's what I like about some of the American tracks. Like, I know we've got Watkins Glen coming up later on in the season, where the track limits are green and not good if it's raining. I mean, Bathurst is even better because the track limit's made out of concrete and fairly solid. So
just don't have a track limit, and it's just a wall.
Yeah, exactly. It's how it should be.
Well, Paul Ricard also has this infamous thing because most of the track is pretty much asphalt. You're not gonna slow down. Like in a lot of the areas on Paul Ricard, or as it's also called Les Castellets, pretty much because a lot of the stuff around the track, like outside of the track limits, is pretty much made of asphalt. It's very hard to slow down because there's not a lot of gravel trap areas in order to have the car slow down much further before it hits the barriers. So if you're going to hit the barriers, so if you end up losing control and end up going off the track at full speed, you're going to hit the barriers full speed.
I mean, not really, no, because it's got some special high friction paint on it. So
those blue and yellow things?
Yes, so the blue and red bits. So the blue stuff is fairly... So the blue stuff... So the blue painted lines are like kind of a medium friction grade stuff. The red stuff is basically like sandpaper almost. It's really abrasive. So if you went sufficiently wide enough sideways, you'd absolutely ruin the tyres. I think that might have been an Aston Martin parked up on the exit of the final corner.
That's not who I think it is it?
I don't know, but I did see a car that was parked up. I don't know. It can't be, because Erdmann's currently in third place at the moment. He's also got a car that's Matt, because Vlayen gets a little bit early on the throttle there in the Audi R8. Evo 2.
Oh, green again.
And
on the inside with Bentley.
Mackie. Yeah, it's easy to do there as well, to overcook it, because the first part you can actually carry a fair bit of speed through, but then the second part it gets tighter, and then the third and final part, no question about it, first gear. So yeah, it's quite technical, and that's why I think, I think there were talks to try and improve the overtaking on the F1, that they actually may be considering potentially even reverting back to the original opening chicane instead of this version, because the original opening chicane easily flat out in a Grand Prix car. It's flat. It'd probably be nearly flat in a GT3 car. So if anything, it's probably for the best if they keep this version for the GTs. But for F1, yeah.
Is that a McLaren off the track?
No, that was a McLaren getting out of the way of this battle.
Okay.
Given the pit stops at the moment.
Here, the McLaren has taken out the Porsche of Max Haynes.
Yeah, Max Haynes, and that's a McLaren, so that's not going to be good news. That's Hafer or Mason? I don't know. It's going to be one of those two because Varga's well in the top 10 and Badowski's way behind this battle. So we'll have a look to see in a sec when they cross the line as to just who's plummeting down the field. And it's showing that Chafer's up to 12th, Mason's up to 14th, then it's Gomez 15th, Hayes 17th, so it might
possibly be Varga.
Yeah, I was going to say, it might possibly be Varga who has done that, which is a bit peculiar to say the least, because I don't think he was anywhere near the battle.
I wish I could be able to. I wish I could be able to see the cars clearly, but the quality right now, the quality of the video is not really helping. Like the names are really like popcorn-like on the screen because the quality is really low. So it's a bit hard for me to tell which driver is who. But at least I can see the numbers, like the number 71 here, that's in 6th place, and chasing after a Lexus RCF GT3.
Yeah, that's Shipston up ahead. MO Plate currently in the 71. And they head through the back end of the circuit once more. Pit window opened some time ago, actually, to be fair. I think we're almost halfway through the pit window. Badowski, interestingly, again making an early pit stop. So I'm wondering if he's doing it, try and actually get a bit of clear track.
Marco Badowski, man, I remember that guy. Marco Badowski, he was the winner of that first race I joined in the commentary box. I believe it was the Kyalami 2.4 hours.
I wouldn't really know, to be honest. There's Mason there. Of course, it's the in-game time showing as 9 PM, hence why everyone's got headlights on, although when they do actually have the big 6-hour race here, it finishes well into the night, and used to actually be on the weekend of my birthday, but then they had to change the date because the French Grand Prix was that weekend. I know what I'd much rather watch around this place on my birthday, and that's GT3 cars because of how utterly tedious and dull the F1 is around here.
I mean, most of the time. Like, didn't the French Grand Prix have some amazing races recently? Like the 2021 French GP was good. I don't know if the 2022 GP was good.
I wouldn't know because I haven't watched half of them.
If you were to be fair, the entire 2021 season was just brutally amazing. Well,
anyway.
at least I thought so.
It was interesting. I'm trying to be so diplomatic.
Back to this race and
Dan Birch there in the Mercedes. Oh crikey, it's going to take a few weeks to get used to this.
That's the guy. He's chasing the GTR that had overtaken him. That's a Bonnet.
Yeah.
Yep. Robo, I've been hearing like Robo. I've also been hearing like from a lot of people that you also work like with the NLS, like at the Nürburgring and whatnot. And that's why I made that comment about the Nürburgring, which you pedal to the metal philosophy to approaching corners.
I mean, I occasionally do some stuff with regards to the NLS. Not that was actually my main broadcast at the weekend, but yeah, that was entertaining to say the least. It was actually something never seen before, really. It was that they had the depending on where the race leader crossed the start-finish line, that was your gap, and so they for the second half of the race, so they restart the race. So race leader, off you go. Right, wait a few seconds. Next car, and everyone had to drive around under code 60 for a bit, and then they eventually got the. Eventually, by the time they got the final car out of the pit lane, warmed up, got some heat in the tyres. I think the lead Porsche was nearly done a full lap, albeit at 60 kmr. Giorgio Minga there in 39th place, but has pitted in the Bentley. As well as has got Al Gartner just ahead of him, 1 point and a bit seconds up the road in the Lamborghini. In fact, we just saw him actually flash through the shot there briefly. As well, it's funny what you were saying earlier, Debug, because guess who's just got the fastest lap of the race?
Who would that be? Mr. Erdman. Yeah.
Yes, it would be Erdman. Yep.
it's looking like Schuller's kind of checking out in first place at the moment, isn't it? He's good 3.3 seconds ahead of Mr. Kachowski.
Barton's up to third in the M4, but also needs to pit. There's quite a few people in the pits, actually. Erdman, Shirley, Warden, Chafer, Mason, and Lenz all in the pits. There's Max Haynes.
Basically, the pit stops over there.
Haynes just coming out there. There's the Lexus of Shirley.
Gotta be careful here.
Shirley's on. I don't know if Shirley has changed tyres or not, because, well, we don't know. Everyone's keeping their strategies to themselves, so fair play to them for that. But it does look like Radek is leading, although there is still a few drivers yet to actually pit. So Max Haynes being one of them, interestingly enough. So yeah, it's going to be... I don't think Haynes is going to be able to hold on to 7th. I couldn't quite see the gaps then for a moment, so I was going to try and work out roughly where he would filter back through. But thankfully, the pit lane here at Spa is actually quite short, so you don't lose that much time, relatively speaking, compared to somewhere like Spa. But yeah, Schwerblin in the pits as well.
I was going to say, are you sure this is Spa?
I'm fairly certain this is Paul Ricard.
Yeah, you said Spa there.
Yes, I know, because I was referring to the pit lane at Spa, which is 1.6 kilometers long.
Yeah, it's a long boy.
So
Vlayan has got ahead of Birch.
Yeah, Vlayan up to...
But Birch is fighting back.
But Birch fighting back on the inside into Beausset. Vlayan having to really hang it around the outside there. Cuts back to the inside for the second part of the corner, right on the back of the Mercedes, now coming up into...
Outside, but going a little bit wide.
Don't know the name of that corner. There's Crawford Brown up into 10th place in the plain yellow Ferrari. Haynes has just made his pit stop, actually. So Schuller is now the only driver not to have pitted. It's showing Kwiatkowski and Barton having about 17 seconds or so. They're now dropping back down through the field as timing updates. So there's...
Schuller is going through the third sector at the moment.
Okay, so Schuller is going to... Yeah, Schuller's going to be in this lap because the pit window closes in about 52 seconds' time. So Schuller really kind of has no choice at this point other than to head into the pits for standard 1 litre of fuel and maybe tyres, maybe not tyres. So it'll be interesting to see where he filters out in the next over the next 4 minutes or so, I think, based on roughly how long a lap is and pit delta time and all that. So yeah, coming to the end of the pit window now, with Xavier Eugeni in 24th place. In some series, 24th place would be quite a long way down the field, but out of a field of about 46 cars, this is considered a very respectable mid-table position.
Jesus Christ, this is like a NASCAR stack field, like 46 drivers.
Absolutely. I'd be pretty happy right now if I was 24th.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Yeah.
I mean, I wish a lot of the races. I wish a lot of the races had this much drivers. Like, we could see a lot of new talents that will be climbing up the ranks. Probably, we could also see some of the other drivers like battle in the midfield. Like for example, Chevrolet G is fighting with this Lamborghini and BMW over here at the back.
Yeah, that's Damien Vilk and George Crockett. Vilk in the Lamborghini. I mean, it's. I mean, what else would Damien be driving? Let's face it.
Damien Wilk is just a Lamborghini main.
Yeah. No, surely it's just an Audi R8 with a body kit.
Well, I was going to say that.
Is it because both?
I'm going to get such a bollocking tomorrow morning from him for saying that.
Is it because Lamborghini and Audi are both owned by Volkswagen?
No, it's because it is literally the same car underneath. It is. There's pretty much. I mean, I think even the engines are identical in those things. I mean, yeah, obviously there's different styling in that, but there. I think there is a fair. But for like most of the kind of the mechanical stuff, there are I think a few similarities. I mean, I know Audi have their own. I know the driver's seat is different. Because Audi have their own custom design, which they've been using back since about 2012 or 13 now. So
Tell you
that's
what,
one of the main differences.
Just keeping an eye on Wilk this lap on this straight, because if he gets the opportunity, I think he might.
Yeah.
Knowing what Wilk's like, though, he won't fully commit to it.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Go to the outside.
Coming up towards Dean. He's still holding on. Oh, Crockett having a bit of a lag spike there.
From Crockett.
It was one of those moves that, hey, if for Crockett, if it was going to work, it was going to work. But
yeah, it was.
Oh,
going around the outside now.
He has to keep using the inside line to
We
the position.
saw and gets past this time. Well, he managed to. Well, to Damien's credit, he did do it a lot quicker than what Nathaniel Shirley and Jack Alexander did it earlier on.
wide.
Because those two guys actually ended up taking it all the way to the final corner.
Well, it's up into 24th place now.
So coming down the pitch straight, Eugenie in 25th with a pretty good view of the gearbox and rear wing of the Lamborghini. It's the problem with these two cars, they're so easy to get mixed up, like, you know.
Is it probably because they have similar shape as well? Like, I'm sure the Audi R8 and the Lamborghini Huracan could be put on the same, like, side to side to each other, and you could see that they both have, like, a similar shape. Like, not just similar engines, but also similar shapes, so that can be a bit problematic for some.
It's not too bad. There's Hayne and... Yeah, that's Max Haynes and Ian Mackey battling for position. There's a Ferrari there as well, although I think that's a lap or two. Well, I'll say a lap or two down, a lap down. God, thought this was an endurance race, but no, it isn't. Next round of that coming up at Watkins Glen in a bit. As they head down into Beausset once more. He's still with Birch in the Mercedes. Of course, Birch part of the Nissan lineup that managed to capitalise on the Bathurst shenanigans a couple of seasons ago to claim the Constructors' Championship Constructors title.
I think I saw that race.
After the Porsche team got utterly annihilated, as did about. Well, it's probably easier to list who didn't actually.
Yeah.
in that race.
Speaking of Constructors leading the championship, who's leading the race again? And what car is he using?
Probably. Oh, it's just fair to assume. I mean, the normal assumption at this point in the Constructors' Championship over the last few seasons has been, it's probably Radek Schuller leading in the NSX, but I don't know if he's still in the lead or not after the pit stop cycle. I know he did stay out as late as possible to try and pull as much of a gap.
Fighting here with a Porsche over there, number 51 Porsche. That's Shepard, number 41, fighting with a Porsche.
That's Kevin Shepard fighting with Gaelander in the 517. Porsche, Gaelander still holding on. It's on the part of the track, admittedly, which does suit the Porsche a bit better. That's quite twisty, quite traction oriented, but at the same time, now coming up to the Mistral Straight, where I'd imagine the Lexus would pull away a bit. In theory.
It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to judge which cars have like a better top speed and which cars have like better cornering. The 911 GT3R probably has better cornering exactly because of the short wheelbase, not to mention the rear engine rear wheel drive layout. Oh, but the Porsche is going to try and go on the outside over here as they go to the next corner. Not really enough to overtake.
As Shepard manages to prove this by by holding the Bose, and indeed it is Radek Schuller still leading the race. As is
that car's pretty fast on Assetto Corsa Competizione, huh?
Depends who's driving. It's like we got Kozłowski in second in the Mercedes, Shirley third in the Lexus, Edmund fourth in the Aston Martin. We've actually seen the battle here now.
Battling, yeah.
That was for second, third, and fourth. There's Crockett in the BMW, currently with Eugenie ahead of him in the Aston Martin.
He's gone wide on the first corner, so he's got a chance over there.
Of course, Eugenie was involved in that spectacular battle a couple of seasons ago at Misano when he had the misfortune of trying to get the Emil Frey Jaguar around Misano, which is no mean feat, and he was able to actually hold off the likes of Martin Schaefer and I think someone else, both of whom were in Ferraris that had the benefit of actually being able to go around corners. For a good couple of laps, actually. It was cracking fun to watch. Meanwhile, Jack Mason and Max Haynes have both been given drive-through penalties for track limits, to the surprise of absolutely nobody who has watched a race at Paul Ricard.
Surprisingly, there has been those are the first two drive-throughs I've seen throughout this race.
I mean,
handful of penalties given from the first race.
Yeah, it's usually I remember a couple of seasons back when we had 2 pit stops per race, and we'd get to 5 minutes to go at the end of the pit stop window. I'd be thinking, oh, we haven't had too many people get penalties for speeding in the pits yet. And then inevitably, as soon as I say that, someone actually gets a penalty for speeding in the pits. Stop and go 30, which is always the way it is, really. Sod's law on that.
Speaking of which, we're just gonna have less than 4 minutes remaining on the race now that you're saying that.
Well, Jack Mason's already come in for his penalty. I'm guessing Max is... Yes, he is staying out. In the twilight.
Might just stay out and serve the time penalty.
He might, yeah. I'm trying to see what the gaps are. Either way, he's going to drop out... Well, he's not going to finish in the top 20. He's going to drop well into the 30s. Judging by that, I'm just trying to work out quick. Yeah, easily drop out below McDonald in 30th place. So
it's also whether he has 3 more laps to finish the race, or else he's disqualified for it.
Yeah, it's at that stage of the race where it's kind of depends on what Radek's doing. I remember a race last year where Radek crossed the start-finish line with about 1 second to go and forced everyone to do an entire another lap back in the GT4s, and that caught out so many people.
They caught out so many people because they were going to run out of fuel.
Yeah, because about half the field was on the verge of running out of fuel, which was actually pretty. It was brought back memories of the Formula E race in Valencia that time. It's one of the most farcical motor races I've ever had the misfortune of having to cover as a journalist.
But that's probably really frustrating. Like, just having one more lap added to your race just really puts a damper on your strategies.
Well, that's why you back time everything. That's why in a 24-hour race, about 3 or 4 hours to go, you start back timing everything. So you start back timing as to when the race is going to end, where the leader is in relation, and then you work out that way. Okay, do we need to put maybe a bit more fuel in the car to actually make sure we can definitely get to the end? So that's why a lot of teams often back time their strategies in the Enduros. Meanwhile, Shirley and Erdmann battling away for second place here.
Still battling out for second place.
Yeah, Radek's about 9 seconds ahead of them, so
it's a
coming
significant
through
gap from the rest of the field.
Yeah, so they're coming through Beausset now, which means Radek's probably approaching the penultimate corner, so I think there is going to be there's going to be another lap here.
Reaching the final corner now.
Yeah, just coming up to the penultimate turn is Kozłowski in 4th in the Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, look at this.
George McDonald.
Lots of people fighting each other over there.
It's okay, in order, it's Kevin Shepherd in the Lexus, Alexei Gerlander in the Porsche, George McDonald in the thingy, great one, the Lexus, sorry, and then the McLarens of Mason and Varga. Yes, it is quite hard to tell which car's which late at night.
I also agree. I also have a few issues. Oh, it looks like they're gonna overtake the Porsche over there, and they're gonna do a double overtake at the missile straight. What is this?
It's a motor race.
Oh no!
The Lexus has gone ahead.
The Lexus was
overtake on the missile straight. This is incredible.
Well, one of the Lexuses. I think that was okay. So, to recap what has just happened, the timing thing was showing the two Lexuses side by side. So McDonald has now moved ahead of Shepherd and Gerlander as Max Hayes comes in to take his drive-through penalty, and the two McLarens are still line astern. Meanwhile, Wouter Vlaen is battling with Hugo Gomez. Well, more to the point, Gomez is sending up the inside into turn 3. And nothing Vlaen could really do there, unfortunately, to try and hold on to the position. There's Ian Mackey putting in a good show in the big Bentley, which is threw me off.
The NSX is already reaching the finish line.
As there's...
There we go.
It's absolute.
The NSX is reaching the finish line.
Meanwhile, it's complete bedlam further down the field, and who knows what's happening at the moment. But meanwhile, heading into the final corner, Erdmann is going to send out the inside.
Shirley.
Oh, Shirley keeps his foot in. I think Erdmann may have lifted off there. I wonder if Erdmann lifted off, because I think there may have been contact. I do wonder if Erdmann decided to back out of it in the runoff area to let Shirley go back past. But either way, it's another win in the Constructors' Championship for Radek Schuller. And meanwhile, we're currently looking at George Crockett in 22nd place. As the few people have crossed the finish line already, actually. Schuller, Shirley, Erdmann, Kozłowski, Shipston, Plate, Badowski, Crawford Brown, Eddie Warden, Harry Hottie, Josh Barton, cracking drive from him to finish 11th, Martin Chafer in 12th, Lassetin, I think that was in 13th, Barnett 14th, Williamson,
Gomez, Valayan, Mackey, Birch, Atkinson, Land, Crockett, Wilk, Eugenie, Al, McDonald, Shepard, Gerlander, Mason, Haynes, Varga,
Pereira, Red Sky, Magnus Dahlgren, Mikko Sky in 35th. And there's still going to be a few more drivers behind as well. Indeed, there are, as Todor Kostadinov, Al Gartner, Matt Scherblum, Giorgio Minga, Im Begg, and then there's Blake as well down in 41st, showing as being 15 laps down.
He may have retired early.
I was going to say, I'm guessing he's going to be a retirement. Oh, crikey.
Ooh, that's
one of the McLarens there. Yeah, that... I remember a couple of years ago that happened in the Constructors' Championship after the Nürburgring race.
I don't know what you're referring to.
At that time you damn near you could quite easily have ended up with a broken wrist, mate.
I've never flown so high in the air in my life.
Yes. For context, there was an incident after the race a couple of seasons back at the Nürburgring, which fortunately was caught on the live stream. Well, fortunately for the stewards, was caught on the live stream, where one of the Nissan GTR drivers that season basically drilled debug at full speed. And it was at quite some speed as well. I don't think I didn't see any brake lights, but yes, it was quite the impact. And the first thing you asked me upon getting into the voice chat where the drivers were was, did you catch the incident at the end of the race? So I was like, well, yeah, there was one incident, yeah. Yeah, the one where you got hit up the arse. Yes, so that could have been quite the penalty for Nissan at that time. I seem to recall.
Well, thank you for a first opening to a very interesting, great start to a Constructors' Championship season, the 8th season of it. That was pretty epic, to be fair. Some great bit of action there, Rob.
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal, and goes to show that Paul Ricard, for sports car racing, in particular, races very well indeed. Certainly a lot better than it does for some other series, Formula One. Yep, he says from experience. And Dan Merchant highlighted that it was just as the second race was about to start that his internet went. So, yeah, tremendously unfortunate.